Good morning, everyone. My name is Leonard de Guzman. I'm one of the organizers for today's SGX event on the programs team, along with Ashley Peter. I'm also the recruitment manager in HR for SGAC, and it gives me great delight to introduce to you all our first speaker, Debra Facktor, for our introductory lightning talk. Debra Facktor is head of US Space Systems for Airbus US Space and Defense Incorporated. As such, she's responsible for managing the two businesses within US Space Systems, National Security Space and Space Exploration. Debra is also on the board of Airbus OneWeb Satellites, a joint venture operating a state-of-the-art satellite manufacturing facility. Debra is actively engaged as an advisor and mentor in the aerospace community and is a fellow of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics and the American Astronautical Society. She sits on the University of Michigan Aerospace Engineering Industrial Advisory Board, the Advisory Committee for the Intelligence and National Security Alliance, and the Future Space Leaders Foundation Board. She's also an academician of the International Academy of Astronautics. Debra received her bachelor's and master's degrees in aerospace engineering from the University of Michigan and is an alumna of the International Space University's summer session program in Strasbourg, France. Could you please all join me in welcoming Debra Facktor?
Well, good morning, everybody. Who's had their coffee or tea yet? All right, excellent. So thanks for the great introduction. It's a real honor and pleasure to be here again at SGX. I've been involved with it since the early days, and also Airbus is a sponsor of the Space Generation Advisory Council and has a lot of activities that we support here in the US as well as in Europe. So to start our morning off, I want you to think about some chaos in your life. Who has chaos? Anybody? Anybody? Okay. Think of your chaos right now. It is going on everywhere we are. Even this morning when I'm in my Uber, navigating across the bridge with construction, I'm like, I'm gonna be late, what is going on? Just mini chaos sometimes triggers a lot of things in our life. Watching the news, or don't watch the news, is probably better. You have 12 proposals going on. You've got pressures from your family, pressures at work, deadlines. You never get through all of your emails. At least I don't. And life is just crazy. So close your eyes and imagine something, I'm not trying to stress you out, but something crazy in your life right now. Just think about like the worst thing that's going on. Okay, open your eyes. Chaos. The definition actually comes from the Greek word chaos that means abyss or gaping void. Kind of interesting because you think about a void has nothing in it and chaos has everything in it. So the modern definition has come to mean complete order and confusion. Chaos theory, the origins of it go back to the 17th century when astronomers started to figure out what the orbits of planets were like. And it looked kind of random, and they figured out that there was some order in that randomness. Today's chaos theory is about behavior that's so unpredictable that it does appear random, and that is owing to great sensitivities in those changes in initial conditions that result in some complex effects in linear and nonlinear systems. Okay, I know you didn't come here to think about a physics and math lesson, so we'll kind of skip ahead to that. So what's the order of chaos? What's the opposite of chaos? I gave it away. Order. Order or calmness, and finding something that has some structure, that has some normalness, that has some maybe beauty in it when you're in a world that looks so crazy. So what I'd like to do is talk about today, how do we find some of that creativity? How do we find some order when something is going on that's so crazy in your life and it just swirls in your head? So I'm going to give you a couple of steps today. The first one is to breathe. So think about that chaos that you were just thinking about the other moment. I know I have a huge amount in my head. Now I'd like you to stand up. Stand up. Okay, face a different part of the room. So you've just stepped away, and now you're changing your perspective. So just kind of notice what's going on in the room. And now come back and face me, and you can sit down. So as you were focusing on a different part of the room, so previously you were looking at me, maybe you were looking at the slides, you were thinking of the chaos. What happened when you turned around and looked in a different way? What happened? Does anybody want to share? Okay, it's really early, I know. It's totally fine. The point of the exercise is that the room is the same. Nothing has changed. What only changed around you was the way that you saw the room. So the people that you're sitting next to, look at the person next to you. And now look at the person behind you. So it's different. It's the same people, but as soon as you notice something, your mind is changing. You're now thinking about, oh, maybe I saw somebody I didn't know. I just saw a friend that I haven't seen in a long time. And your perspective changes. Your brain starts changing as well because now you have a fresh perspective, and I bet you're not thinking about the chaos. Or you may have now because I just reminded you about it. So now I'd like to take another exercise about changing your perspective. When you change your perspective in your life, something does change. Your mindset changes, your creativity changes, and you have an opportunity to think a little bit differently. So now I'd like to look through a new lens. Okay, I'm not going to get into an optics lesson here either, but everybody knows what a kaleidoscope is, yeah? Little pieces, it's an optical instrument, essentially, our own little telescope with bits and pieces of colorful chips or glass or paper that, tilted at different angles, change when you move it. So that constantly changing pattern or sequence of events is random. It is chaos. This is chaos in here. But when I look through and I rotate it around, try it. It changes. And maybe, now the room doesn't have a whole lot of light, but if you change to something where it's a little darker, or maybe when you're on the looking to the floor. Now this really changes your perspective. And through it, what I like about this exercise is there's beauty. When you're looking at the chaos and changing it around, there's unpredictability. You don't know what colors come together. You don't know what patterns will come together or shapes. And all of our telescopes are different as well, our kaleidoscopes. And when you do that, there's a calm. I just almost sensed it. Try it again. Think of your chaos. And now kind of change the perspective. Is there a new way you can look at your problem? There's some beauty in here, some calmness. And that step, if something's going on, somebody comes into your office with a huge crisis, you learn that a proposal that you submitted, you won, and now there's the chaos of execution. Or you lost, and now there's the chaos of what comes next. But in that journey of changing your perspective, you get a sense of calmness. I love the beauty that comes out of it as well. And it's something that you can do with yourself or share with a friend or a colleague or family member. And even if you don't have your kaleidoscope, you can just change your perspective wherever you are as you step away. Changing your perspective really is a small step, but it can have a very large impact. This kind of goes to, oops, where's my, I messed up. Chaos. Okay, there we go. The butterfly effect. The butterfly effect is a theory, part of chaos theory, that one small change can have a big change elsewhere. So the famous theory is the flapping of a butterfly's wings, say here in Washington, D.C., can trigger an effect in our weather that causes a tsunami in Japan. So those small perturbations, you would never think about it, but everything we do in our society has a big impact, even down to sustainability. Are you using plastic throwaway cups? Little things have big effects. So I love talking about the butterfly theory because there's another part of butterflies that give rise to the change of something, of a cocoon that is wrapped up super tight. And the butterfly, as it goes through the process, the caterpillar, to come out of that cocoon, it has no idea that at the result of that chaos, where it's struggling and pushing to get outside of its shell, it becomes a butterfly and it's something new. So now I'd like to ask you how you cope with chaos. What are some of the tips and tricks that you use today in having a change? I know I'll give an example of my own, if I can use my own team in the back, Morgan, and my colleague Kara, who will speak on Thursday. So I don't know, we just have everyday office chaos. And one time, Morgan comes in we had the meeting, I walked in, I saw something was going on. A few minutes later, she comes in my office and she sits down. And we're like, well, what are we gonna do? I said, what's up? And it was just changing that perspective. We took a deep breath, we stepped away, and we talked it through, and she left with a new perspective. The funny thing was, 2 days later, Kara comes in the office. She said, I'm having a moment. And we come in and we sit down. It just got out of the meeting. So you have to step away sometimes, even in the office. And it was super fun. And we all laughed about it because we thought we just needed that moment. Anybody want to share how you cope with chaos? Eat ice cream? Go for a walk? Pet your dog? Yes. Cook yourself a little meal. That's a great idea. I'm going to come over for dinner. Yes? I was going to say simply just take a moment and breathe. Take a moment and breathe. That's the first step. Like seriously, if you're in a bad situation, just breathe. Because your brain goes into that fight or flight mode. Absolutely. Yes? Make a list so you can see everything that's overwhelming you. That's a great task. And part of it is your brain writing down. It transfers it and you start to think. Over here, anybody like to share? I'm looking for hands. It's kind of hard to see. Yes, in the back. Eat chocolate. Oh, I love that one. Excellent. Yes. Exercise. Fabulous. Get those endorphins going. Was there one more in the back? Anybody else? Yes. Go for a walk, get some sun. Scream! Oh my gosh. I love it, I love it. But just great examples. And we kind of forget that when you're in the middle of everything. So the point really here today is that whenever you face chaos, there's a lot of tools that you have. They're super simple. Take the deep breath. Just as we said, it's the first step. Step away. Change your perspective, look somewhere else, find a different thing to focus on. Do any one of these items that people have just shared. Change your lens. And in the process, notice that journey. What can you learn from it? What happens when you really do step away and how creative you can be? And I think that journey is really important. Chaos, while we say find your order, it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. It doesn't mean it's going to go away. It just means it's going to settle into a new place. And the process of finding that new place, find some beauty, enjoy the journey, find others to share it with, and in the end, you'll find your new order. I hope this lesson is helpful for you today, and it's something you can carry through the week, especially as you enter the chaotic pace of satellite and coming out of the pandemic as well. Carry your kaleidoscope, tuck it away, and I wish you all the best in your journey through this week and through your career. Thank you very much.